Hey guys, former WWE superstar Hornswoggle here, and you are now somewhere in the ring.
The following podcast is scheduled for one recording with no time limit. Making their way down to somewhere in the ring, Andrew Sanford and Ryan Sprague.
So it's always funny. Also, this is Somewhere in the Ring, a podcast where we talk about pro wrestling, and sometimes we talk about other stuff too. And today we're going to be talking about board games. Oh, I forgot to get out. I'm going to say right now, I'm going to put this blame on myself. I have a copy of Wrestling. Okay, I have a copy that Scott gifted to me years ago as a very nice gift, and it is in a drawer that is underneath that blanket that is also underneath these crib pieces that we are trying to give away. That being said, I will blame my wife on this one. She doesn't listen to this show, so I'm fine.
That's what you think.
She is a very good person and always wants to give away stuff that we are not using for our children anymore. And she does that through Facebook Marketplace. And people on Facebook Marketplace are crazy and will sometimes just say that they want things or immediately say that they want things and then just never show up. Or then they have to be like, yeah, I can come over at like 10 p.m. and pick it up. And it's like, no. So anyway, there's a crib that was supposed to be given away. Maybe I'll try to dig it out at some point. But anyway, we are here with a very special guest, a good friend of mine and friend of Ryan's as well, who we've known for quite some time. I've known for over a decade easily at this point.
Yeah.
Who has a wonderful YouTube channel called Frozen Gamer, Scott Witebsky. Scott, hi.
Hey, what's going on?
Welcome buddy.
Pal.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm just going to throw it out there because for those not watching, for those just listening, Scott has his board game Bonafides on full display behind him.
Oh my God.
So let's I'm going to pick, what is the one over your right shoulder? It looks like a racing game. What's that?
This one. So this is Thunder Rolls. It's a NASCAR game.
Okay.
It's a very unique NASCAR game in that you play like dice majority part where you like move slowly the first half of the race, and then the second half of the race you draft cards from that dice majority that you play, and you draft cards and that makes your car move faster. It's usually 2 rounds. The race is over. It's all abstracted, so you're not like running like a 200 lap race.
Sure.
It's just like you're lucky if you get through 3 laps as around the whole thing, but it's crazy fun. Fun racing game.
Cool. And now your YouTube channel is called Frozen Gamer.
Yep.
I know why. Tell everyone else why.
Yeah. So it's simple, just because I am from Minnesota and I'm always cold, even if it's warm out.
I was curious what it meant, but it all makes sense. But all you had to say was Minnesota.
It's nothing too deep on that one. And there was only like one other, the Frozen Gamer on YouTube, and who hadn't posted in a really long time. So I was like, I'm taking it. It's quick, it's easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I remember for my 30th birthday, one of my several years. Oh God, that was 6 years ago. I'm gonna pass out.
Moving on.
My wife and I and some friends of ours. So Scott and I were friends, but then got even closer playing board games, through a group of friends. Jerron Young, who's been on this podcast before, Mikhail Page, who has not, and Ray Fisher. He does things. I don't know. Nobody's ever really heard of him or what he's doing. Can't think of anything in particular. But for my 30th birthday, we all ventured to Minnesota and to play board games. Well, we went there to play board games, and we ended up playing one for 22 hours over 2 days, something like that.
God,
partially your fault on that one, I believe.
Oh, I believe that is 100% my fault. Thank you very much.
Well, okay, explain. What was this game?
It's called Twilight Imperium, the 4th edition.
Okay.
It's supposed to streamline the 3rd edition. It did not streamline the 3rd edition for us. And it's a huge, it's called a 4X game. It's like Exploit, Exterminate, Explore, and one other X that I forgot. Huge epic space game that takes, I played it in about 8 hours. I think is my quickest I've played it now at this point. But yeah, ours went long. We argue a lot, our group.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Argue and debate.
Yep.
Debate would be the nice way of saying it.
I've been to a few of these board game nights with Andrew, kind of looking from the outside in, because I'm not like I'm not a tabletop sort of person like you guys, and it was so cool to like see like the intricacies of everything and how you guys can sort of just pick it up, and also how you learn along the way too. And I'm just like sitting back like I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm having a great time, and I feel like that's half the fun right there.
Yeah, part of it is just like hanging out with each other and stuff. But Scott, and I'll ask you, we'll get into a little bit more about why you like tabletop board games so much, because I don't think I've ever really like needled you about it before.
Yeah,
but
no, I don't think we've ever talked about it.
No, and if anything, I I feel very blessed that I am not I was bad in school. I was very much a learn by doing person. So when we usually start these games, it is Scott very carefully and intentionally and thoughtfully and thoroughly going through all the rules that he has taken the time to figure out for all of us, and me getting high and playing on my phone while he does that. I think is most of it, and then being like, okay, yeah, I'll start, or no, let somebody else start, and I'll figure out a couple of moves. And then every now and then, there's one game called Thief not Thief, sorry, in Bruges, not in
Bruges. Yep.
Bruges.
Right there, that orange one, if you can see it, kind of.
There are a few games that we have played quite a few times because we went through a phase of like, oh, let's play a new thing almost ever. We play tested a game that was one of the worst experiences in my life. Not even just board game. We won't name the game, but we will say that it was broken. And that one of the gentlemen that I mentioned before made me cry because he wouldn't stop attacking me, because it was a legacy game that you have to play with the same people several times, and we were playing several nights of the week. And I was just like, please. I felt like Scatman Crothers in The Shining pleading with Stanley Kubrick. I was like, I don't know what you want. This isn't fun for me. Please stop attacking me. It's the same thing every night. But Bruges, for whatever reason, I've won several times. I even won the last time that I played it with like Mikhail. That's just one that it always works out. But Scott, what kicked off your love of board games, and kind of when did that start, do you think?
So I love board games since I was a little kid, playing like the mass market games, Life, and we had the Mad Magazine game because my dad has every issue of Mad Magazine of the base magazines. So that's his collection. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
that's awesome.
That's so cool.
Did you ever tell him, because you worked at the Broadway Theater with me at one point or another, and several other times, we were directly across from the Mad Magazine offices in that theater.
I had no idea. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, because 1700 Broadway was for a long time, for decades, a home to DC Comics and Mad Magazine.
That's crazy.
Isn't that great? You know, and we can say it now. All three of us worked in Times Square for like decades at this point, collectively.
Too long.
And yeah, exactly, Scott. Well, that's kind of my point. Is like you walk by these buildings every day, and you don't understand like the history DC
of them.
Comics, Marvel Comics, and like all the things that have happened here. Meanwhile, I'm just like, get out of my way, Elmo. I gotta get to
and to be fair, it is now an I Heart New York souvenir shop next to a dispensary. So it's, you know, not to say it anymore, but sorry. Yeah. So you had the Mad Magazine game. I'm going to derail you just very quickly because I need to know what the point of the Mad Magazine game was.
So it's a roll and move game, just like all the old games, and you go around the circle and you're trying to lose all your money. So the opposite of like the Monopoly. They were like spoofing on Monopoly, probably, or any game of that era, Life, any of them from that era. So.
That's fantastic.
And you had to roll with your opposite hand or you get penalized. I remember that rule. You'd have to like lose a turn if you rolled. I'm right-handed, so if I rolled with my right hand, I'd lose a turn if someone caught me. Just like stupid things like that.
Wow. That's awesome. I love that.
That's so great.
All right, so you're getting into it, you're playing.
So I played my entire life, and then I got in like middle school age. I started playing, or probably younger, probably like around 10. I started playing this game called Dynasty League Baseball. It's a baseball simulation game. My friend and I played it, and then I would start solo. I bought my own copy and would start solo playing it. So I played that through like forever, like my entire life basically. It's all online now, so you don't even need the physical copy anymore. And And then from there, I got the flu in like 2009, like influenza, 2009 or 2010. And I was like, I need something to do. I'm bored out of my mind. I feel like I'm dying on my couch right now. I need something here. And so I was like, oh, I could probably play board games or something just lying around while I'm recovering for these next handful of days. So I looked up and started looking up online. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's all these new board games coming out. Will Wheaton had a show at the time called Tabletop. So I started watching that and learning more about all these games that were coming out. And from there, I was brought back to my youth, and I played a lot of card games growing up too, just with friends. So just brought back to my youth, and it stayed. And it's never gone away since.
Nice.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
And
Like,
I love that of just my joy for board games is just playing with people. Like I'm a quiet person, but I love being around people. So it's just being with my friends. So that's like my favorite part of it. It's not really the winning and losing so much. Of course, we're trying to win, but at the same time, it's just hanging out. This is the fun part of it.
Right. And you can be yourself, you know?
Yeah. I lost it from like video games, because when video games started to go via remote and playing online, I used to always play Nintendo or Sega or whatever with my friends growing up, like sitting side by side, and that started to go away. And I was like, oh, that's not as fun anymore for me. So that's the other reason that I went to tabletop, because I'm actually physically there again with my friends. So
Nice.
Yeah, like that's one of the more exciting things about video games with my kids right now is I'm just like, oh, like they're terrible at them right now, but eventually they'll get better, and it'll be like a fun, I can beat them for a while until they surpass me, and then I'll be upset. So,
Yeah, exactly.
my dad would always say, he's like, come on, play some baseball. And now eventually I would be like, no, I don't want to score 17 runs before the second inning. Like, that's not fun for me. But he would always be able to needle my younger brother by saying, like, yeah, you're going to get your butt kicked or whatever. And he would always, like Marty McFly, and always be like, ugh, like, I'd just get sucked in to destroying my father in a game that would take 4 hours, even though it should usually take 45 minutes.
Right.
Sorry, Ryan.
That's the point where I was gonna say that's the point where your dad is finally like, these things rot your brain. You're done. We're not playing these anymore.
No, he would just dig in, man. He would just the more he would get beat, the more trash talk would come out of his mouth. Yeah. That's
Well, Scott, I've started watching a lot of your videos, and it's for someone who's not really into tabletop games and whatnot, like, I'm sold, man. Like, you make it so accessible, and you can see the passion coming through. So tell us a little about the channel. Like, what do you do on the channel, and what made you want to start the channel?
I just like talking about games. Like, that's one of my favorite things to talk about. So just like wrestling, space, and stuff for you and Andrew and other things. It's just one of my favorite things to talk about. So I wanted an outlet to talk about people, or talk with people about it. My channel's still very small at the time, so I hasn't grown that community quite yet, but it's getting there. Every once in a while I get some comments in there that I can chat back and forth with. So that's always exciting. But that's why I started it. I do some reviews. I do a couple playthroughs. I have a handful of small playthroughs of games. Some of the easier ones that I can just sit down. I don't have like a ton of high technology. I'm not doing this for money. I'm just doing it as a passion hobby. I'm not getting paid by anyone to do it, or any sponsors or anything. So I don't have like major awesome setup. I have a nice camera, luckily. But that's about it. And then I do like analytics. So I just finished my second master's degree in data analytics now. So I have been writing code to go scrape this website called Board Game Geek, which is like the IMDb of board games, basically. And it scrapes the website and collects data from it for me. And then I just analyze it, and then I put up, I had to let go recently, but usually and will continue running every week. I do the top 10 hottest games that are on the website. They collect their hottest games, and then I collect the points for the week and give it a point system and nerdy stuff and data nerd stuff. And then I've just posted up online, and it's just with music in the background. It's very peaceful. I don't actually talk on that one. Just a very easy one to post up, and it's kind of a refreshing thing. No one else is doing anything like that one. So that's kind of my specialty right now, but I'll be going into a whole bunch of stuff next year, hopefully.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully once or twice a week of videos.
Yeah. Two questions. Maybe 7. I just said that because I was like, why say that you're gonna I'm dragging this whole thing down. Have you ever, because the things that I have played with you get insanely complicated, and then it can be down to like as simple as, oh, jeepers, what was the game that we played? Meeples or something like that. It was the same weekend.
Yeah. What's it called? It's down here. Meeple Circus.
Meeple Circus. Super fun. Right. It sounds silly, but it was super. It was a very fun game. And there's like a timer to it and you have to put things in a little position. But then you have like Twilight Imperium where it's literally like there are technology trees and you have to expand and all those things. So obviously you will play very complicated things.
Yep.
Have you ever had any interest in anything like Warhammer or any of those kind of tabletop games?
No, that's like one genre I'm not into or haven't been into. Warhammer, skirmish games. I haven't played traditional war games. I have some war games on my shelf, but they're not the traditional like 1v1 type of war games. They're actually both of the ones I own are solo, and I'm getting a couple others this next year. I have a wide variety of games, though. I play like super light games, which this year, all my favorite games from 2024, for the most part, were like extremely light. Like you could play with your grandmother type of games,
right?
And then next year, I already know like a lot of my favorite games are going to be these huge campaign, like Kickstarter campaign that did like millions of dollars, just giant games, and some historical games. There's a game about the Supreme Court that I'm like probably the most excited about out of any game right now. So
nice.
How many, like, is there a take? Yeah,
Exactly.
I was see right with the right that way. I was just like, so is there a take a bribe card? Is Harlan Crow a playable character? Like, does he just, or is he like a Doom thing that just moves further up the board? It's like, okay, you're getting close to Harlan Crow getting born.
There
I apologize
is
to whoever's listening and does not want to hear you.
There's all the famous cases. There's, I think, every Supreme Court justice is in the game. So you start from the beginning of Supreme Court time all the way till 2010. I think they ended it.
Sure.
Before it got super polarized recently.
Yeah, I was about to say I would very much like to like go back to 1959 and strike down Loving v. Virginia just to see if it erases me from existence.
I believe that game is in that case is in the game. That's one of the cases that's in the game.
I hope so. Yeah.
There's a game. There is one named Sanford, I believe, too. Sanford versus someone in the game, I think.
Sanford. Wow.
We get a lot done.
Apparently. That's awesome. There really is a game for everything. I love that.
Yeah, there is. And I will say I was playing something with our friend Mikhail the other night, actually, some Kelp game that was actually really fun. That was pretty simple.
Game that came out this year.
Kelp? Like in the ocean?
Kelp. Yep.
Yeah. So I was an octopus
shark,
trying to hide, and he was a shark trying to eat me, and that's pretty much what. And it was very fun, very simple. I was having a massive allergy attack because he decided to adopt cats for some reason, for love or whatever. I don't know. But I was even still having to rub my eyes every 15 seconds. I was still having a good time.
Good.
Yeah, the simple ones are fun. But then there's some too that like they might be like a little bit complicated, but they're thematically very relevant. And
let me grab one from my shelf real quick. I'm just going to turn around and grab one here.
No, yeah. Right. Scott, I would be upset if you didn't grab something.
I know. This is definitely one of those episodes.
So
that's why we have the video.
It's a huge political game. Mr. President, 2001 through 2020.
Oh, when did that game come out?
It was my game of the year for 2023. My favorite game from 2023.
Okay.
This is a solo only game. You can only play by yourself. You can't play with a second person and have someone be like act as president, someone kind of act as your vice president and kind of just work things out together. This is probably a minimum 18-hour game.
Wow.
Can
Super
you like
complex.
take little breaks, I assume? Like,
yeah. I never played in one. Yeah. I just, it's so big it doesn't fit on my gaming table.
Scott, I have to ask.
Andrew, president is a 24-hour job, man.
Exactly.
Well, no, but Ryan, I'm saying that because one weekend we played a game that was played by presidents that took a minimum of 15 hours, I believe.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's called Diplomacy.
Diplomacy.
I forgot which president was it JFK?
JFK.
It was someone's favorite game.
Yeah. Hey, come over this weekend and you're going to be Russia and I'm going to be, it's like, that's literally what it is. So, that's a fun one too.
So for both of you, I'd love to know, like, Do you know that the games are going to take this long, or does this just organically happen? Like, do you prepare emotionally,
those games
physically, mentally?
those games are event games, like Mr.
Okay.
President, Twilight Imperium,
Yes.
Diplomacy. They're event games. You know those are going to take a long time going into it.
Okay.
And I would like to very quickly. I would say you should know what's going to, but
You should
very
know.
specifically. And I won't say who it was, but we played Diplomacy with a fairly high-profile director who is a very nice person who claimed up and down that they had played Diplomacy before and they were really excited and all this different stuff. And we sat down and Scott was like, okay, as we had said, this game takes like, what is a minimum of 8 hours? I want to say
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And this person went, oh, I have someplace I have to be in 3 hours. Like they didn't know how long the game takes. The game that they swore up and down that they played before. And long story short, they did not stay for the whole thing.
No.
Mr. Busy Pants, yeah.
Which luckily in that game you can just wipe out their factions, so it kind of worked.
Yeah. It wasn't terrible. But Ryan, the way, depending on who we were playing with, because every now and then, like one of the core 5 might not have been there, and we would have somebody else. But I would say we would always look at how long it says the game would take, and then add 3 hours. Just assume that we would need to add 3 hours.
That was specific for our group, I believe.
Yes,
not just if you're just getting into games, don't do that. If you're in a group that likes to debate a lot and argue a lot, then yes, add on some extra time.
We literally there was a game.
I have a question, but please continue, Andrew. Yeah,
there was a Game of Thrones. There was a Game of Thrones game specifically where we ended up calling the kitchen in our old apartment the betrayal garden because several players would be like, no, come here, I have to talk to you. And sometimes in that game, you could literally lay down like a coin and you could have a private meeting, or you could just like walk away, but everybody can still hear you and they know you're doing something. But we would play a lot of these games that require like Diplomacy probably the most heavily. That one is very much
that
like
one's very mean and backstabbing, and
you have to talk to each other. You have to go and like, it's a really fun setup too. Like the rules are simple, but then the actual getting into it, just very thematically sound.
The whole game is Diplomacy. Diplomacy. The whole game is Diplomacy. You have war guys going at each other, and you're trying to. You go off in rooms and talk to people, and then you lie to people directly to their face about huge plans over this huge long game, and then I backstab Mikhail, and we fight in every game since.
That is perfect, Scott, because that is my question. So we are a wrestling podcast, you know, obviously. When things come to fisticuffs sometimes. Has there ever been an instance with you guys where it got so heated where like someone left or someone cut a promo in the middle of the game or someone like was ready to fight?
Jerron and Ray have come very close to it.
Jerron and Ray go at it a lot. Every game they go at it. They'll be friends, and then Ray betrays Jerron, and
vice versa.
I could see something like this ending a friendship, and I'm sure it has.
Jerron will get into "I'm gonna burn it all down" mode. Like he will
nuke the game.
It is. Go ahead, Scott. Go.
There's many games like Diplomacy where it's head to head, like Game of Thrones. There's many conflict games like that. Thief is one that we loved. There's just tons of them out there, but Diplomacy specifically, they call it the game that ends friendships. That's like the nickname for the game. Yeah. It's not official. The nickname for the game is the game that ends friendships.
Wow. The way Ryan, it would usually work out is Mikhail and Scott would be very focused on the rules and trying to win the game. I would describe myself as more of a wild card. Like I have the capacity to win some of these games, but it goes in and out. Like Thief, I've managed to win a couple because there's also a mix of it's a mix of me being a wild card and everybody assuming like, well, Andrew smoked 4 times tonight. He's not paying attention. Joke's on them. That's how I get more focused. But then Ray and Jerron would be racking up vendettas either against each other or against other players. And those are kind of the various vibes. And then there would be some poor 6th person that would usually come in and be guys, it's 4 a.m. Can we please stop playing?
And I'm just gonna say, Jerron, and you know that they're playing the long game. Like in 25 years, like this is gonna come back, and they're gonna be like, "Do you remember when we were playing
Yep.
Thief and you did that?" Oh man, I love
Absolutely.
it. I love it.
Yeah, there's the grudges. There's grudges that are
I
held.
love it.
Yes. Oh yeah. Scott, what's your history with pro wrestling?
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
let's talk about that. So I don't have a modern history with pro wrestling like you guys do.
Love that.
I just don't know much.
Not the first on the pod for that. I'll tell you that much.
We were flipping through channels with my son. And we happened to catch a match. I don't know what it was, but we saw Jay Uso. Is that his name? Jay Uso.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
He fought, and we both liked him a lot. Haven't watched him since, but we both liked him that one match. We were going crazy.
Nice.
Kids love Jey Uso, man. He's great. Isaiah and August now I'll go like ooh, and they'll go so's. It's pretty great. Pretty great.
So that's the only like modern wrestling I really know. I know some of the 2000s guys a bit, but I go back to the 80s. That's when my grandfather was really big in wrestling. Wrestling was really big in Minnesota in the 80s, and before Verne Gagne was from there. And my Ric Flair was Ric Flair. He grew up next to my dad as a kid. He's a little older than my dad, a couple years older, but he grew up, they were neighbors. So there's like just a lot of wrestling history in Minnesota, and my grandfather was really into it, which is kind of weird. I don't think the Jewish population is like usually the go-to population, the target demographic for wrestling. But my grandfather was really into it. He got me really into it when I was a kid. It was during the gimmick era. Of course, and I was totally into those as a kid, and so I was hooked. I know quite a bit about 80s wrestling into the early 90s. Probably stopped in the early 90s is kind of when I let go of it. And then I know the big names, and but I haven't seen them wrestle much. I watched The Rock wrestle when I was in grad school the first time. In grad school, I watched him wrestle. I was like, "Oh, this guy's he's kind of fun." So
great. Yeah. And now he's wearing a lot of shirts with a lot of pockets. Did you have a favorite in the 80s? Who?
So I made it. Do you want to go into this? I made a list.
Oh, yeah.
We asked you to make this list, and you obliged. And I'm so excited to hear this list.
Okay,
this is gonna be
so this
like
is
a nostalgia bomb.
12 wrestlers for 12 Days of Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Let's do it. I'm going to actually throw in a couple, two honorable mentions. They weren't my favorites, but I did love them. One was Barry Horowitz. Did you ever hear of this guy?
Yes, we covered him. Wasn't he like a jobber?
He was a jobber. I don't know if he ever won a match. Maybe he did. I don't know if he ever won a match. He was Jewish. And I had a friend growing up named Barry Horowitz. And then I had a different friend in college named Barry Horowitz, which was way after the fact, but I just loved him because he was like clearly the one Jewish wrestler at the time.
Wow.
The one famous Jewish, or like known, obviously Jewish wrestler. And then one of my first celebrity crushes was Miss Elizabeth.
Sure.
Manager.
Cool.
Her and Olivia Newton-John when she was not like sexy Olivia Newton-John in Grease, like when she was like prude Olivia Newton-John. Those were like my two celebrity crushes as a kid. So that's my honorable mentions.
Nice.
So I'll go just in order from 12 down to 1. 12 Marty Jannetty from the Rockers.
Oh man, Scott.
Yes. Tell me any stories you know about him.
Oh, bud. He basically admitted to killing somebody like 2 years ago on Facebook, like very flippantly. Look, we have some kids that listen to this show sometimes, so I won't get too much into it. But I am begging you to go to Marty Jannetty's. Like, yeah. Just do a deep dive because he just doesn't care now, and he just it says and admits stuff, and it is.
He's off the list. We're replacing him with Barry Horowitz.
Barry Horowitz has been moved
12.
up.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm sure none of the other 12 professional wrestlers from the 80s have done anything untoward.
We'll get to one that I know for sure. Even I know this one. So, but Marty Jannetty, I liked him with the Rockers with Shawn Michaels. I liked him better than Shawn Michaels. For whatever reason. He was the one that I always liked the underdog too, and Shawn Michaels was, more well known. So next one's also one guy from a tag team, Hawk from the Road Warriors. Big spike guys with the painted faces, like the Oakland Raiders fans or whatever the Raiders are now. He was also from Minnesota. That's part of the reason. I like the Road Warriors as a whole, but he was from Minnesota. I was about
to say, I remember him talking about. I think they like trained Brock Lesnar at least a little bit.
Oh yeah,
I think Brock Lesnar also from Minnesota.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Minnesota got a big history with wrestlers.
Yeah, they do. Wow.
So number 11 is, or number 10. Number 10 is the one that I also know a history of. Dino Bravo.
Not familiar. Oh God.
So Dino Bravo, he eventually tag teamed with Earthquake. If you remember Earthquake.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
So they were a tag team for a while. And he would do like push-ups with Earthquake on his back. And Dino Bravo was like one of the most evil wrestlers. Just there's no way you could like this guy. He had bright,
also,
like,
Earthquake is huge.
Yeah. Well, it was yeah.
Royce.
So, there was some a little bit of impressiveness in how they did the push-ups. But Dino Bravo, he had like a shortcut hair. It wasn't like the blonde mullets of the time. It was like just this short, close cropped, curly-ish type of hair, if I remember correctly. He was from Quebec. He'd wear these fleur-de-lis, which I liked at the time. That was part of the reason I liked him, but he was just evil. Like there's no reason. He was just like a scumbag type of wrestler. And I just liked him for that. And he also, so he got murdered in real life. And because he married into the Canadian mafia and supposedly got murdered by the mafia over cigarettes.
Sounds about right for a Canadian mafia, to be honest. Yeah. It's so,
you guys still hear me? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we can hear you. You are frozen.
You're frozen, but there you go.
Oh,
you're back.
There we go.
Sorry, I had to. Frozen. Anyone? No? Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah. Let's sing Wicked when we're referencing Frozen. Keep going, Ryan. You're ruining this. Good Lord.
I'm getting my Idina Menzel's messed up. I apologize. Wow, the Canadian Mafia. Yes, I think I heard about that one on Dark Side of the Ring. I don't know if you've ever
I was about to say
show.
the same. I think you would like that show a lot.
Okay. I probably would. I like the underbelly of stuff.
Yeah.
And oh boy, is there one. Like with pro wrestling. I'm sure. Not to go on too much of a tangent, I wrote a script, a wrestling script somewhat recently, and at some point in the script, someone basically gets the cops off a wrestler's back just very easily. And somebody was like, would they be able to do that? And I was like, oh, have I got 15 plus stories for you? But anyway, so, oh man, yeah, Dino Brett, yeah, I believe he has a whole... And if I believe, no, never mind. We're getting into too seedy details. Keep going, Scott. Who's number 9?
Okay, number 9 cleans up the act, I think, a bit. So this is Tito Santana, legend.
As far as I know,
of course. Yeah.
He was just on Saturday Night's Main Event the other night.
Yes,
awesome.
He was one of the pioneers of it. Yeah.
Yeah. At the time, he was partnered with Rick the Model Martel, who was he was. Probably at the time, I don't think it's lasted, but at the time he was more popular than Tito Santana. I thought Tito Santana was the better wrestler of the two and the more entertaining one. Rick Martel was like this model. He'd like spray like perfume or cologne or something on him or hairspray. I don't know what it was. He was like the super good looking one at wrestling of the time.
So many of those pretty boy gimmicks. It's such a funny, lot. Like there was a lot of guys who are like, I don't know, you're handsome. Like just go do that.
Yeah, just be the pretty boy. Number 8 is Virgil. If you know Virgil at all.
Yep. Yeah.
Ted, he backstabbed Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. And I hated him, so I was happy when Virgil was like his butler early on in the gimmick, and then switched on him. And
it's so funny with wrestling. When I think of wrestling and I hear the term butler, I always think of like Batman. Like it's literally like his outfit. Yeah.
I with Virgil. So I used to work some comic conventions and wrestlers big at comic conventions. And I remember one time I was at a booth for metalmachine.net and Virgil came over and noticed that we had internet and asked if he could use our internet to check the horse races that he had bet on earlier on that day.
Please tell me he actually said internet. Like, can I borrow your internet?
I think, look, this was 2010. I think that would have been a fair way to ask. Yeah. It was wired. We had to pay extra for it, all that stuff. But and then I remember a few years later, maybe within like the next year or two, I did a little July 4th celebrating on Coney Island, and there was Virgil with a booth set up on Coney Island. So some of those wrestlers from that time not great with their money. That being said, and I won't say what he said, Virgil passed, I think like last year, maybe 2 years ago. And but listen, look up cool. Oh no. It was either Virgil passed and this was said, or Coolio passed and this was said. But look, I believe it was either Coolio doing an homage to Virgil, like because they were friends. Virgil and Coolio were friends. And they did a social media post remembering the other one, and it is one of the funniest things I have ever read. And I would love to live a life to be remembered that way. So it still worked out okay. Who's number 8?
Good.
Who's number 8?
So I think that was number 8. Number 7 is the Red Rooster. He was kind of not a really well-known guy. I think his name was Terry Taylor or something like that. His actual name.
Okay.
He was around for a while, never big, but then he got this gimmick of having a red mohawk, which I was like always liked. I was always into like the punk,
nice,
the punk vibe. So I kind of just liked him for that, and he'd strut around the ring like a chicken, and that was his thing. He had some I think he had like a couple, like one big match, but he was just kind of always in the background. Number 5, is it 5? No, that was number 7. So 6 is the Junkyard Dog.
Yeah,
that's going way back. So the Junkyard Dog could be my number 1, but I only saw him wrestle like 1 or 2 times because he was a little bit before my time. He was like kind of more early 80s, and when I was just being born. So, but I did catch him a couple times. I believe it was my grandfather got me this big WWF wrestling ring at the time, with like these turnbuckles and nice rubber ropes and everything on it. And they came with these 3 like giant, like maybe like foot tall, like hard rubber chonky wrestlers. So I had Hulk Hogan, the Iron Sheik, and Junkyard Dog, and I just immediately gravitated to the Junkyard Dog and thought he was like amazing, and he had the chain with the toy, and if I saw him wrestle more, he easily could have probably been my number 1, but I didn't get to see him much. So number 6. Number 5 was the Bushwhackers, the tag team.
I love it.
And I just remember going around as a kid, just running around like this.
Everybody did that.
Yeah.
They may not have ever known what wrestling was, but everyone knew that.
Within the last, I want to say in the early 2000s, one of them came out for a Royal Rumble. And if you're not familiar, 30 men go in every 2 minutes. Yep. Royal Rumble. That's the thing. When I always tell people, when I try to get friends I won't invite friends over for WrestleMania, but Royal Rumbles, I'll be like, no, come over. It's fun. It's stupid fun. Just trust me. Just come over. It's always a good time. But the Bushwhackers, one year, one of them came in doing that walk. He walked in, got in the ring, was thrown out immediately, and immediately started doing the walk back up the ramp. One of my favorite gimmicks. One of my favorite little bits for a Royal Rumble ever, aside from Drew Carey facing down Kane and trying to offer him money to not be thrown out and then eliminating himself. Easily my favorite Royal Rumble moment of all time.
Bushwhackers are just crazy, man. I don't know if they were good wrestlers. It didn't matter. They were just goofballs, and I loved it as a kid. So number 4, the next 4, 3, and 2 were actually like really good wrestlers of the time that I actually like, because usually I'm a bit of a contrarian and don't go to gravitate to the guys that are towards the top. But number 4 is Jake the Snake Roberts. Just classic. Damien. I mean, I like the gimmicks, so all these guys had gimmicks in a way, but Damien, I love the Snake. And I love Jake as well.
And one of my favorite things about him is look, he was having some dark times for quite a while there, and has really turned his life around. So
that's great. That's great to hear.
Something like that. Yeah, I remember DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, bang, has this whole thing called DDP yoga, where because wrestlers for years and years were just doing uppers and downers after matches to try to bring their bodies down and not doing anything real to deal with the pain. And DDP's like, yoga, man. And all these guys would kind of shirk it off. And then finally he got everybody's like, no, just friggin' stretch. Just stretch your bodies and take care of yourselves and you'll be okay. And now he will have he offers his home to recovering wrestlers. And Jake the Snake came there. came there during COVID, and then I believe like really got himself clean with DDP. So just
That's great.
Really,
That's great.
Has single-handedly probably saved the lives of so many
yeah,
like former addicts and whatnot wrestlers. It's incredible.
really awesome.
That's
He's
amazing.
even trying to get Lex, what's his name, Luger.
Lex Luger,
Yeah,
Oof.
trying to get him to walk again. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
That'll be some Jesus stuff right there, like healing, getting someone to walk.
Tis
again,
the
I'll
season,
say.
I've been told.
It
So,
is. It is. There we go. I had to get it in there.
So top 3 wrestlers of Christmas here.
Excellent.
Number 3, Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Yes.
I also had his action figure at one time too, not the original 3 chonky ones, but a cheaper plastic one. And man, to me, having your hair cut off after you lose a match by Brutus the Barber Beefcake was more terrifying than having like the big boa constrictor or whatever of Jake the Snake Roberts. I would much rather have a giant snake on me, and I'm not like a huge fan of snakes or anything, but I'd much rather have a giant snake on me than have like some random lock of my hair just like cut off. I don't even know if that was really done or not, if it was faked or whatever, but to me as a kid, that was terrifying.
Scott, it's so funny you mentioned that because like there would become matches after that, like throughout the decades, where if you lost, like you would get a haircut. Like I think, like famously, didn't Trump like cut, or didn't they cut Trump's hair or something like that?
No, they cut McMahon's. There's no way Trump was going to come in and lose like that. Yeah, it was Umaga against Bobby Lashley, and Trump. It was Umaga in Umaga's corner, or in Lashley's corner, and Vince was in Umaga's corner. And yada. Yeah.
So
I was more furiously googling because I was like, isn't there a whole thing where like Brutus and Hulk Hogan? A lot of people think they were lovers. Like, there's a whole and that's yeah, because they were very close, and there's a lot of and then like had like a hard falling out at one point, and I don't want to speak out as that's all very alleged, even though I cannot stand Hulk Hogan. I wouldn't want to like disparage or like on something that should not be disparaging. I don't even know why I brought it up, but that was the first thing I heard when you said that. I was like, Hulk Hogan lovers. Yeah, that was my last couple of seconds. But yes, shear, and it's the big shears because he would use like garden shears to do it. Wildly unsafe.
Still unsafe.
Yeah, even as a gimmick, just wild. There's no way they were like doling those things,
right?
Oh God.
So yeah, I loved him. Number 2 was Ravishing Rick Rude.
Nice.
So at the time, I had no idea that was sexual. I just thought it was like the funniest thing. I saw like you'd see that they'd shoot to the women, and the women are going crazy and whatnot. But to me, as like 7-year-old Scott, like had no idea what was going on. But I'd go around the house doing it at like 7 years old and stuff. Just loved the guy. I thought he was like the coolest. I thought it was so funny, but it was like so cool at the same time. Obviously. Yeah, so it was, just loved the guy. I thought he was like one of the best showmen of the time, to me at least. Man, he just could command like the audience so well. And
he, the only wrestler to ever appear on Monday Night Raw and Monday Night Nitro in the same night. His contract with WWE ended at WWF at the time, and he was on like a handshake deal, which is why they don't really do those anymore. One of the many reasons. And Raw was filmed a week ahead of time, so he was on that Raw and then debuted on Monday Night Nitro the same night. And it was like,
I was gonna say that's David Copperfield magic.
He was never really welcome back after that. It was Yeah.
Wow.
Legend. That's I love that stuff. Anything that like pisses Vince McMahon off that bad, I'm on board for.
You're all for it. Yeah. Makes sense.
It was your number
That's
one.
a good number 2. Yeah.
Okay, so number 1. Number 1, I'm glad you brought up I'm very glad you brought up Hulk Hogan, Andrew. I know you don't like him, but I don't like him either. He's not on my list. Number 1 is Coco Beware. Do you know Coco Beware?
Of course.
Yeah. So never like a huge star. He'd get a match against a star and would lose all the time. But man, he just had the best energy ever in the ring. He was like always happy. He had his little macaw, Frankie, that was with him all the time. And anytime he was on, like he would be on, his joy would just make me so happy. and just seeing him running, doing his thing, and just being happy. He was always happy. And then he went to, what were they called? He was with Owen Hart on a tag team. I can't remember the tag team name.
Oh, cool.
High Energy. High Energy was the name.
Amazing.
And they were like these baggy neon color outfits, and it was the same thing when he was with Owen Hart. They were just like super happy. So even after he like left the solo and went into the tag team stuff, just always cheer for the guy. And he was supposedly, I was looking into his history for this a little bit, and he was just around forever before he became. It took him a long time to get some recognition, and which is kind of cool too. I don't know how he ended up. I didn't even look into his history, but
I actually believe he was also at Saturday Night's main event last week. He was
wow.
Yeah. So he's good. He's still kicking.
Awesome.
Know? And,
good.
Yeah. Yes, right.
You know who else was at Saturday's main event? Who I want to ask Scott about? Your former governor of Minnesota,
Jesse.
Right.
Jesse.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on Jesse the Body Ventura and him being the governor of where you're from?
So that was my first election, I believe, that I could vote for. I think. Otherwise, I was just about to vote and couldn't vote that election. It was either one or the other. I was not happy he won. He did not. He did not do well, in my opinion, for education for the state, which has always been one of the top education states in the country, and kind of took a hit for a while. Not the worst, but not the best. Not my favorite.
I could
Governor,
see him being one of
great
those.
great wrestler.
Yeah.
Not gonna hold anything against him on his wrestling.
And hey, look,
right.
tried to get wrestlers unionized, and was literally blacklisted from the WWE until last weekend. Like it was a mix of for like for almost 40 years. Like it was because he tried to get a union started, and Hulk Hogan didn't want other people making as much money as he was, or more money than him, or things of that nature. So
give him some respect for that then.
Politically
not my favorite, and he was independent, so he wasn't Democrat or Republican. Right. He was actually independent at when he was running. So keep that divide separate. He was right in the middle.
There you go.
Yeah. And he believes in chemtrails, so there's that.
Okay, Ryan.
I had to. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fair. I know. But I Scott, if there is some way, I'm at least going to send you a trailer. I bet you could get an emulator of it at this point. There is a PlayStation 2 game called Legends of Wrestling, because it always comes back to video games for me. And it is literally territory era wrestling with like almost all of the guys that you've named so far.
Oh, that's awesome. I'll check that out.
It's really fun. It was all like it kept more to the old system of like, oh, you're gonna go wrestle in like the Northeast right now, and then try in the Southwest, and it's very cool and a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Thank you for doing all of that, like preparing a nice little list for us.
I like making lists, and it was fun to go back and. So my friend, one of my best friends at the time, had like the entire. They used to have like they probably still do, but they have wrestling like trading cards back in the 80s, late 80s, and he had like the entire set. So like just from watching and then going through the set, his entire complete season of trading cards, it was like I just know all of those guys from that era, and it was fun to look back and try to figure out which ones were my favorite. I'm probably missing some that I actually really liked, or I forgot I really liked them. I think I liked the Big Boss Man, but I don't remember anymore if I actually liked him or if I didn't. But I remember him so clearly, I probably did.
Yeah.
There's guys.
One time he fed somebody's dog to them in the show in one of the episodes. So if you can find that, a lot of people
didn't he also
really hate that.
At one point?
He did get lynched. Lynched.
Interesting.
At a WrestleMania, no less. But then,
going back, I actually watched. This is so crazy. I actually remember watching Glow, the Glamorous or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember watching that live. Yeah. I remember watching it live when I was like pretty young.
Yeah.
That's how much I like. Anytime wrestling was on, I would watch it back in the day.
That's cool.
Dude,
so I remember like the sketches of it. I don't actually remember the wrestling from it, but I remember watching the sketches that I looked online. Like once the show came out, I was like looking online to try to find. I'm like, I totally remember seeing this. Like 100% remember watching this.
Wow.
And the era was the 80s. It was almost like inescapable. And what's kind of fun is currently we're kind of getting back to that era. Yeah. Like the Saturday night's main event pulled in 2.9 million viewers, and it was up against a basketball game, like a tournament basketball game that pulled in like 1.8. So they actually
Whoa.
did pretty well for a Saturday night. And you mentioned the trading cards. What's kind of fun is they've tried to bring trading cards back in the past, but now I think what they've learned is it's mobile games now. So mobile, and you still have to get cards within the games, and they will literally, during Saturday night's main event, they're like, download the game now. It's free to play, and if you get it today, you get this exclusive, free to play. It's like most of the games now where you have to give money to get more stuff, but unless you feel like playing it for 17 straight hours. But it's not a tabletop board game, so who's going to do that? But yeah,
you're used to that.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, especially a lot of the wrestlers now, like the more popular ones, since they grew up in that era. I remember CM Punk, when he came back to AEW a couple years ago, tried to get them to do ice cream bars again. And because that was a big thing. That did not go over as well, I don't think. But yeah, it's funny to see it kind of return to that era. And one thing I do want to say real quick before because we had some videos, but who cares? It was way more fun to have you talk about your favorite wrestlers. Maxwell Jacob Friedman, currently one of the best wrestlers out there.
Okay.
Proudly Jewish and proudly and loudly Jewish. And Scott, when I say he's one of the best wrestlers, he's 25 years old, maybe 26. He was very briefly in the Iron Claw. He had some of his scenes cut, but he is it's a bummer to me because I think he's going to move on from wrestling very quickly. But he wrestles incredibly well. He's great on the mic. He's very young. Proudly Jewish. Will call out anti-Semitism any chance that he gets. It rules. He's awesome. And look, starting in the new year when AEW is all over Max, you'd be able to watch him more easily if you felt like it. It's really, that's the other thing. Starting in the new year, I believe Peacock will still have live wrestling events on it. Netflix will have Monday Night Raw. Max will have all of AEW's shows. It is now that streaming services are starting to see that live events are where the money's at. Wrestling is going to be everywhere real soon.
Nice.
I didn't think it could get bigger, but I think 2025 is going to be the year of wrestling. Huge. I really do.
It's going to be John Cena's retirement year. That's going to bring in a lot of eyes. It's going to be a big year for wrestling.
For sure.
So,
for sure.
Yeah.
Before we go,
17.
Before we go, I don't know how much time we have left if we're wrapping up, but do you want me to list a couple, just 2 board games for people?
Oh, yes. Please give us 3. Give us 3.
Yeah.
Give us
3.
This is your time, man.
So the most popular one is a game called Mask Men. And this is very abstracted. It has a wrestling theme to it. It's not really wrestling, though. It's a trick-taking, like a trick-taking game like Hearts, but it's a climbing game where if you ever played a game called Presidents, a very famous one, but you try to get rid of all of your cards out of your hand by playing a more powerful set than someone else did. It's a wrestling theme, like a luchador mask theme card game. So that's the highest rating wrestling game on Board Game Geek, and it's ranked 2,000 something. Which there isn't a whole lot of wrestling games. 2,000 is actually pretty good because there's over 160,000 games in the database. So 2,000, it's not elite, but it's pretty darn good.
Sure.
And it's well known. It's a well known, well respected game. It's called Mask Men by Oink is the publisher. And then if you want to get to more realistic games, there is one called Face to the Mat. Sorry. This is by a company called Play, Plaay. If you go to their website, you can find them there. And this is a simulation game. You could play it 2 players, but you can also just play it 1. And it's very similar to wrestling in a way. It's their company is just putting it on card stock. It's not any high quality of a game, but you simulate matches by rolling dice and looking up charts. And I have their golf game somewhere behind me. It's a golf game by them. They do all different sports. They have roller derby. They have all sorts of different sports. They have all the main ones and then some more abstract ones as well. But their famous one for wrestling is called Face to the Mat. And I have not played it, but I've watched it played by some guy that plays all these sports simulation games. And it is pretty darn good. It's all made up wrestlers, but he makes a whole history of them going back to the 1970s. So you can get all the different era sets, and he updates them every 2 years. So they get the wrestlers progress and have their own rise and fall as well. So you can always update your sets every couple years of these made up wrestlers. And then if you want to do a more gamey type of wrestling game, where you can play 1 to 4 players, but it's usually just 2 would be where you'd be playing at. It's called All Time Wrestling. And this one has some made up wrestlers. I think there's 8 in total that you can play with between the expansion. And it is some made up wrestlers and then some real ones like Kurt Angle's on the cover, the British Bulldog's on the cover, Andre the Giant's on the cover.
Oh, wow.
So you have I think there's 4 made up ones and 4 real ones, if I remember correctly.
When did that come out?
2023, I believe. Yep, 2023.
Okay, that makes. I was about to say because it's always interesting who does and doesn't own their likeness rights. And I guess that means Kurt Angle obviously does. That makes more sense. But British Bulldog, I'm actually kind of surprised by.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, so you can. So this game, you can go to their website all time. Don't go if you find it online. It's like going for over like $100. But if you go to their website, alltimewrestling.com, it's going just for like it's $80, which in modern day board games is not. It's expensive, obviously, for a lot of people, but
yeah.
modern day board games, that's like actually a pretty standard price for a board game. So it's like $85 plus shipping. But alltimewrestling.com, you can get that game. That's more of a traditional game. There's cards involved in that one as well and rolling dice, but it's got more of an actual like match feel to it. Where the second one was all about simulating a match, and then the first one's just like completely abstracted that I brought up.
Nice.
Those are three good wrestling games.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love that. Thank you. I also am just going to issue an open challenge right here. Not even an open challenge, just a regular one. I want to come play wrestling on Frozen Gamer. I don't know how we can work that out, but I would like, because I was going to try to have us play it as an episode of this, but I don't think on like an audio medium it would be as fun, even if we do have video. The only thing I'm trying to figure out is how we can do the card drawing. But maybe there's a way we can do that online or something. But I haven't played wrestling in years.
Andrew, you take your skinny ass over to my YouTube channel, and we will play wrestling, and I will beat your face to the ground.
Oh man! Challenge accepted. Thank you so much. Thank you for calling me skinny. That's gonna ride me through the rest of the year.
Just when you thought me. Yeah, just when you thought you were insulting him.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, that's awesome. So yes, please. Yeah, done. Happening. Frozen Gamer.
Awesome.
I will see you there in 2025. Early 2025.
Awesome.
Let's get that done.
Thank you guys so much for having me on
Dude,
your channel.
Where tell us more. Where can people look? Because I know you're a Frozen Gamer on Blue Sky.
Yep, the Frozen Gamer on Blue Sky. That's basically all I post. I have a Instagram. That's the Frozen Gamer as well, something like that. Maybe with a period in there somewhere. I don't really use that much anymore. Mostly I'm on Blue Sky right now, which I always want to say Blue Ski because my last name's Witebsky. Whatever.
Yeah.
But
Blue Ski like Brewski, man.
Yep. So I'm on Blue Sky, the Frozen Gamer. You can find me there. And
awesome. And
we'll post.
Yeah, and we'll put your YouTube channel in our comments and all that stuff and our breakdown. So yeah, guys, go check out Scott's channel. Again, I cannot emphasize enough that I always liked board games, and I liked some more complicated ones. Like I was like a Risk guy. Like I liked that one. One of the first ones we played, Risk Legacy, one of my favorite
which is a great
games.
Game.
It's incredible.
It's not the most popular Legacy game. Legacy games are where you like actually tear up cards in the game and draw on the board and put stickers on the board. It's not my favorite. There's been a handful. Risk Legacy was the first one out. Not the highest rated one. It's probably one of the least regarded ones. It's the best.
That's
the
crazy.
most fun.
That's crazy.
The most fun one.
Yeah, because isn't the house on a haunted hill?
The Trail House on the Hill has one.
Isn't that rated high? And that one stunk.
That one was medium. Pandemic's the highest rated one. I think it's rated number 4. That's the fourth best game on Board Game Geek. And then Ticket to Ride just came out with a Legacy game too. That's really highly regarded.
Ooh, I would play that. I think I remember.
We played Clank, which you very much disliked. Clank Legacy.
Yes, Clank I hated. Clank,
which is a very highly rated one as well. But we're on the Risk side, and Risk is great. It's very different than base Risk. If you play base Risk, it's similar. It's similar, but you don't have like these 3-hour-long games that just keep going on forever. They go quick.
And it was different every time. It was like, it felt like we were playing a different game every time. At one point, I nuked Southeast Asia, and it was that way for the rest of the time that we played. Ryan, Aliens invade at one point. Like,
oh my God.
It's rad.
It's
that
wild.
game rules.
It's wild.
All that to say, I would always play some things, and I learned to love tabletop board games because of Scott. So if you have loved tabletop games in the past and want to rekindle that love, if you have been interested and want to get into it, check out Frozen Gamer.
And feel free to ask me any questions about it on Blue Sky. Just message
absolutely
me on Blue Sky, and I will answer any questions about it. If you have any questions about the industry, the hobby, I'll
Hell yeah,
help you out.
Excellent.
I have a million, so get ready, buddy.
Please, please.
Ryan, what about you, baby? What you got coming up? We're at the end of the year. What are we doing?
We're at the end of the year, my man. I'm home with my family for the holidays. So shout out to the Spregs out there. Happy holidays to everyone out there. Let's see. I'm still staying busy over at Somewhere in the Skies, the UFO show. We've got our countdown of the biggest moments in UFOs of 2024. So that's going to be coming out very shortly in the next week or so. And other than that, man, I'm just gearing up once again to go hunt ghosts in Canada and, do that other part of my life. And yeah, what better time to, talk about ghosts and whatnot than the Christmas time, right?
I thought you were about to say what better time to go to Canada than
what better
as we're heading into the winter months.
The worst.
It's like, oh man, I got to get to Vancouver. It's not cold enough.
Syracuse ain't cold enough. I know. That's it for me, man.
Oh, excellent. As always, Andrew Sanford on Blue Sky. You can check out my writing at Pajiba. Check out the people writing at Pajiba. I like my work over there, but there's just some really talented writers, film reviewers. You should go check them out. It's really good stuff.
Great articles.
You can watch. Thank you so much. I feel honored to be among all of those talented writers over there. As always, you can watch my new short film, Chemistry Test, that I made with friends of the show, Tim Barnes and Jim Fagan. That'll be in the link. And if you want to watch something scary, that Chemistry Test is funny. If you want to watch something scary, you can watch Pay the Tithe. That will be in there as well. And there's new stuff coming down the pipeline. So please just, keep your ears and eyes peeled and posted. I just wanted another P in there. Scott, at the end of our episodes, we like to ask our guests to ring the bell to send us out of here. So please, whatever that means to you, ring the bell and send us home.
Ding, 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 and my camera started falling because I was ringing it so hard.
Yeah. Enthusiasm.
Classic 80s bell. It was perfect.
Scott said he was quiet.
Yeah.
This has been Somewhere in the Ring. Thank you for listening. Subscribe wherever you get your pods, and be sure to rate and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever possible. We'll see you again soon, somewhere in the ring.